One thing I learned about Red Smith, I read a couple books on him. Ira did one, and Tom Callahan always had stories. Red had a workshop behind his house, a little cabin where he wrote, and there was a wood stove in there. It was cold a lot. And after Red died, they found all this scrap metal peeled off from plaques. He was burning this wood in his stove. And that's what he did with the awards. I mean, he was a humble guy. Thank you, Tim. That was beautiful. And thank you all for being here. Thank you, APSE, Boston Globe, my colleagues, institutions that put me here today. I'm very humbled and honored to be here. It means a lot. It is interesting, though, to have your placard like this on your great day, how great you are. And it says here, despite his reputation, not every reader, fan, athlete, or coach dislikes Dan. I don't know, it seems inconsistent with the day, but we'll go on, you know. And I really, I have the greatest wife any sports writer could ever have. Mary Lou Witt Shaughnessy, Dr. Mary Lou Shaughnessy, thank you so much for all you did. You all know, spouses all know, man, wife, it's always the spouse. You know, we work when others are playing, and no vacations, no holidays, no weekends, the nights, that's when we work. And a lot of time, my daughter Sarah's here, and time away from the family, and you all live it and appreciate what you do. But you need that support, and I really had that. And we met, Earl Weaver's going to come up a few times today, as he already has. None of that Hinge or Bumble or any of that stuff. It was the old school hotel bar, piano bar, with a smoke-filled room, and Earl Weaver and his drunken coaches throwing back gin and tonics in the background in Chicago. That's when we met, a very romantic setting. It was good. And so we go back to 1980, when I first took young Tim to Memorial Stadium. And incredibly, after all this time, my wife knows nothing about sports. There is not a person in this room who knows less about sports, I guarantee it. Bob Ryan, a recipient of this honor, could never get his head around that. I mean, Bob and Elaine, season tickets to the Red Sox, Celtics, they go to the Final Fours together, they talk sports, they talk ball. She loves it, he loves it, just, you know, and he could not understand. My wife's from Michigan State. New bride, I bring her to Boston, and Bob, this is my wife, went to Michigan State when Magic was there, you know, Magic Larry. And he's like, oh, what were all those nights like at Jennison Fieldhouse at Michigan State? No, I never. I think I saw Magic in the infirmary once. You know? And Bob he couldn't get his head around that. So, I'm married to someone 10 years ago or so. We went to Quebec City for wonderful couples, you know, in the spring. We drove to Quebec City. It was nice, you know, nice enough. And in going there, I missed 2 Game 7s. I missed Bruins, Maple Leafs, and Celtics Bucks. I missed 2 Game 7s to go on this lovely trip. You know? And I think it was like, the legend is that Mary Lou said, well, you can always cover Game 8, can't you? That's an exaggeration. Thank you. I have a million of those, which will all get in the bar right now. There's a lot. My first newspaper was the Holy Cross Crusader. I'm a freshman at Holy Cross, student paper, yeah, I'll do that. I wasn't good enough, I played in high school, but I wasn't good enough to play in college. And my first beat was the freshman football team. Now, my story said that they were in a rebuilding year. That's really dumb. They're always in it, by definition, they are rebuilding, the freshman football team. So yeah, that happened. And, you know, trying to get that first job as a Bear, part-time at the Globe. Globe was always great to me, loved the Globe. So my side hustle was Associated Press. I could run over to Fenway, $7, Dave O'Hara, AP Sports Editor. $7 a game, you go over there, and man, you get all the food and drink you could do in the old hospitality rooms at Fenway and the Garden, and it was great. But locker room, you know, you're saving the effort for the guy to run up and down the stairs, old buildings, to get the quotes in the room. And I was, you know, 19, 20 years old, and Dave Collins was at the height MVP, and he would match up against Jabbar, giving away 6 inches, and he was rugged. Dave could do it. And I asked a bad question in the group, and and Dave Collins looked and said, "That's a high school question." Oh, you know what that makes you feel like. The subject, and it's the MVP, and you're like this. So, but you got to take it and just kind of suck it up and move on. Is anybody here from Milwaukee? Okay, good. So Larry Whiteside, one of our Globe guys, says, you always use the Globe guys to, I know this guy, write to him for a job, write to this guy. So I write to the Milwaukee Journal. And only 2 years later, when I was covering the Orioles, the American League, going to Milwaukee, I realized, now I know why I didn't hear from them. I spelled Milwaukee incorrectly, all the stuff. I thought it was W-A-L-K, walk. So, gee, they didn't answer me, I don't know. So again, little setbacks. But when I started covering the Orioles, I was 23, only been in a plane like twice, had an Olivetti typewriter. We would file by Western Union. It was an evening paper. You could type up your stuff and walk down to the Seattle Western Union office. It was like the Wild West. You had these yellow pages filing. That's how it worked. I mean, it was, and Earl Weaver, we had great education from Earl. Make the bus waits for no man, all this stuff. It was magic, and it was so old school. At the end of the season, the Oriole traveling secretary would give us a piece of paper with every player's phone number and address, in case you want to reach out to Eddie Murray or Brooks Robinson during the wintertime. The answer's no. I don't think they do that. And after a couple of seasons for the Baltimore Evening Sun, another Red Smith recipient, Dave Smith, hired me at the Washington Star. And there's a theme there. The two papers I just referenced no longer exist. And that's part of what we're all doing here today, and I really appreciate the work that you guys do to keep this thing going. And we should have had Kornheiser and Wilbon come on to talk about this thing, because they could easily go there. And at this, I know you all had the Washington Post seminar and didn't allow George to speak, whatever, but really, what happened to the Post just breaks my heart. I was at the Super Bowl with Mark Maskey and Sally Jenkins and all that when that happened, and it's just devastating. And that's why we really need the work that you're doing. And thank you for being here and keeping this thing going. We have all ages here, but we have young people, and ours is an industry in a stage of flux. We all know that. We're endangered. We don't move the needle the way we used to. Okay. But it's still important to have news gathering, and reporting, and storytelling, and that's what you all are up to. Keep it going. God bless you for doing that. One thing we're always going to need is, all the hot takes and the people on TV and the radio clowns and all that stuff, they're piggybacking off the work that you guys are doing. The beat guys are out there gathering and putting stuff out there, and then all the wise guys that never go in the room are making comments on our work. Well, you guys are supplying the content for them, and it's so important. And so just tell your young people that, keep getting out there, show up. That's the theme here today. Show up. I appreciate you showing up for this. And, get in the room, go to the press conferences, all that stuff. So a couple stories about those press conferences. We already had Dave Collins making me look bad. When I got to cover the World Series in 1980, met Red Smith. He was sitting in the atrium in Philadelphia against Kansas City, and I got to have lunch with Red Smith and Jay Levy. It was really cool. So Jim Fry was the manager of the Kansas City Royals. He had been an Oriole coach forever, and I really knew him, because when you travel with the team, I knew Jim Fry. Now he's managing the George Brett and the machine in Kansas City, first year manager, World Series. And those press conferences were bigger than this room in those days, hundreds of reporters, World Series. And if you're a reporter, when you ask the question, it's always great. It's a great thing if the subject says your name when he answers. Like with Belichick, it's sometimes say, well, Dan, and everybody's like, whoa, So you want that if you're the writer, say my name. So I went to Jim Fry, I said, Jimmy, you're doing that big thing tomorrow, big pregame World Series. Hundreds of us, could you just say my name when I ask a question, Yeah, Dan, I got you, So next day I'm out there, Jim's up here, and I get called on by Phyllis, I'm sure, and I'm like, Jim, do you think George Brett can get a lot of hits in the World Series or something, And Jim Fry goes, well, Dan, that's a stupid fucking question. You did say my name. You know what a wise ass he was. It's exactly what he would do. So after the Star folded, I was hired full-time by Red Smith recipient, Vince Story at the Boston Globe. Solomon wouldn't hire me. What are you gonna do? What a stage, George. You've been so nice to me. I love the Globe, and part of what you all do, again, I was a high school basketball player, and our names were in the box scores. The next day, your name's in the paper. You get readers for life, and you're still doing it. Again, doesn't move the needle the way it did, but it's important. We kill high schools. We do a lot on it. It's important. So keep doing that. And so I just love the Globe. I read it because my name was in there. Usually it was 000 next to my name in the box score. But your name was in the paper. I love that. So keep that going. I got to work with the best. Ray Fitzgerald was my idol. I got to work with him. And, the fellows cited all the names in the Washington Post. So we had them. And, Red Smith recipients, Bud Collins, Lee Montville, Bob Ryan, the great Peter Gammons, Will McDonough, Leslie Visser, Kevin DuPont, John Powers, Jackie McMullen. I could go on, but we got to get out of here. And I've had my bosses, thank you for being here today. Many of them, Don Squire, who made me a columnist in 1989 and was wonderful to our family. Our other daughter, Kate, had leukemia when she was 8 years old, and the understanding and the love that we got from the support and that. You don't forget that, and Kate's doing great, thanks. 3 boys and all that stuff. Joe Sullivan, Joe was the first one. He wrote this glowing thing here, but everybody hated it. But Joe was the first one that had to, when John Henry bought the Red Sox, bought the Globe, owner of the Red Sox, who I'd be killing, he buys the Globe in 2013. That was not a party starter. How are we going to get around this? Because you're killing the team all the time, and now he owns the paper. So we have an uneasy truce. It's been difficult, but Joe was the first one to navigate those waters with me and did it very well. And a serious word about that. I mean, John Henry and Linda Henry allow me to keep writing about their team in a critical fashion when they deserve it, which I think more often than not they do. But the fact that I'm allowed to do that really says a lot about the Henrys. So big props to that, because we've seen what happens in other places, and we really value that. So thank you to the Henrys for that. Now, and young Katie McInerney, did I say that right? Yes. And Scott Thurston, assistant sports editor this year, and Matt Pepin. I think you all know Matt. I think he was in charge of the votes this year. It's bag jobs, so that's why they have to deal with an older guy who can't keep up with the technology. I mean, I don't know how often this happens, but we have young people here, and I'm telling you, oh my God, Okta, Concur, Slack, two-factor authentication. My head's exploding. I cannot do my expenses anymore. They're done. A woman took the buyout 12 years ago. She still does my expenses. That's the true thing. They come from the grave. It's like, God, it's beyond belief. And this, it's like working with Austin Powers. It's like, I'll be at the press row and be like, you've got mail. So I haven't quite caught on. My daughter Sarah helps me with the whole thing, but it's bad. So one little story about that. So my daughter Sarah's involved in this. So a year ago, whenever Bobby Knight died, that's a story, big deal. Bobby Knight dies. I knew Bob Cousy, NBA Hall of Famer, Mr. Basketball at 97 years old. I call Coos because I know he doesn't like Knight. And he says, Daniel, I've coached against Coach Knight 3 times, and I've yet to shake the man's hand. I'm like, oh boy, here we go. And so he starts talking about when Knight was in Army and Coos at BC and Knight, and he said, the last encounter, I walked away from him and I said, Coach, take a good look at my ass because it's the last time you're going to see it. That was it. Okay, this is great. So I write it up, and I file it to the Globe. I'm driving my daughter to the airport, and she showed me the new technology in my Toyota Camry, how to make the phone where I don't have to take my hands off the wheel, just hit these buttons, and the robot will speak to me. And I'm talking to Pep, because I'm yelling at Pep driving to the airport. He's like, we can't have ass, it's against Globe style book, whatever like that. I'm like, we're gonna make it backside. Now that's not funny, take a look at my backside. 97-year-old guy, take a look at my ass, it's much funnier. So I'm like, take it out the pole, run it out front, see if they'll go for it, come on. Do me a solid here. He says, well, I'll go out front, ask him, and I'll call you back. Well, I'm driving. I'll leave you a message. Okay, so I drop Sarah at the airport. Now I'm by myself in the car, going home, and the little light goes on, and then I hit it, and the bot goes, you have a message from Matt Pepin. Okay, let me try this button, and it goes, Dan, this is Pep. okay. I'll give you ass on this. I'm like, I'm really glad I dropped my daughter out. Nobody else is here. So, but I did 2 beats at the Globe before being a columnist. Tim's referenced the Larry Bird Celtics and the Red Sox, you know, Curse of the Bambino Red Sox, never winning. The Steamer story, thanks for stealing my thunder with the buffoon ape story. You spared, you don't have to hear that one twice. And Larry, you know, and the whole thing about not everyone hates him, but when Larry, I switched from the Celtics to Red Sox at spring, it was February, West Coast trip, NBA West Coast trips, Denver, San Diego, LA, San Francisco, whoop. So, and you travel with the team, commercial. And all these 7-foot guys, Robert Parrish, McHale, Rick Roby, they're all lying around the furniture, and I go to the payphone, and Vince Doria says, yeah, when this trip's over, you go right to Winter Haven, 6 weeks, and you're on the Red Sox. Okay. I know this is going to be well received by the tall people waiting at gate 10. So I walked from the payphone, I said, well, boys, when this trip's over, I'm going to baseball. Larry Bird stands up and says, I'll pay you away if you go now. That's not something he said lightly. He threw the money around, so there was that. But yeah, I never got close to the players. They were never comfortable, as we've all given the voice to. And getting back to baseball was the first love. And that, what I said about the real beat guys, the daily, that's the hardest work in sports. The beat guys doing baseball, 162. It is wicked. So a lot of things, feelings are harbored there. And you get called out, you show up. Show up the next day when you're ripping people. That's what the talk radio guys don't do. That's what we do. We show up. It's still important. Get out there and do it. David Ortiz, we had a dust up. You know, I might have thought he was cheating, you know, steroids, whatever. And I talked to him about it face to face, and he explained, I'm like, how does your bat speed better now than when you were 22? You know, and we went over the whole thing, and I wrote all of his quotes, and he didn't like it, and I understand that. And it was never good with us after that. He was pretty good though. So the World Series in 2013, he hit 688, I believe. He was MVP. He couldn't make it out. I don't know how, but he was great. And the press conference, you know, you're up, I'm making deadline in the press box. I can't go down to the room afterwards, but the press conference downstairs, it's piped into the press box. So I'm typing to make deadline for Red Sox, you know, Game 5 of the World Series. They're going to win it again. And I hear David Ortiz doing a Q&A, and I hear come across in the press box, where's Dan Shaughnessy? I'm like, you dope, I'm in the press box trying to make deadline here. I'll be down there. So I had to go to the ballpark the next day. It was 2 degrees for hitting the day before Game 6 of the World Series. I got to be there. I'm going to be in the dugout when he comes to hit. And David, you look for me? No. Okay, good. But you got to show up. That's what that's about. The last one is Terry Francona, good friend of Tim Kurkjian's. 8 years he was manager of the Red Sox, and we didn't get along great. You know, but I loved him because he was like Earl, because he was a baseball guy and he didn't hold grudges. He would yell at you, get it off, and start over the next day. So he gets fired in 2011, and my editor, my literary agent, who has Tom Verducci, and he did the Joe Torre book, The Yankee Years. He says, oh, get on that. We did the Torre book, sold 1 million books. You do the Francona book, you know, that'll be great. I said, yeah, but he hates me. He said, well, send him an email. So I'm like, dear Tito, sorry you got fired, want to do a book. Comes back in seconds, no, and not with you. But we eventually talked him into it. We did do the book, had a wonderful relationship because we were no longer had those jobs, we were at odds, and I kept showing up. And fast forward the 2016 World Series, he's got the Cleveland Indians, haven't won since 1948. It's against the Cubs, haven't won since 1908, and it goes 7 games, epic. And they're still having these giant press conferences at the World Series. And I'm still getting called on by Phyllis with the first question, because now I'm an older guy. And I said, it's the 7th game of the World Series. Tito's coming out. What can they say before the game that's even relevant? We need to do this after the game. Nope, we still got to, that's the protocol. We do pregame, even game 7. Well, what's the question? So, could you give me the first one, Phyllis? I got something. And he sits down. You know, it's all tense, game 7 World Series. I'm like, yeah, Tito, would you call this a must-win game? and he laughed, you know? So, you know, it shows you, you know, it's still fun, Still keep showing up. Thank you very much.